Okay, today's Monday, December 11th. Welcome to the McDowell County Board of Commissioners boardroom. Really, it's your boardroom. We're glad you're here tonight. And we always begin our meeting with a prayer and a pledge. And at this time, I would like to ask everyone to stand. And Commissioner Lynn Green is going to do the pledge. But first, Commissioner Brown will do our prayer.
Let's bow our heads. Our Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the honor that we have to represent our county and our community, to try to make it a better place. And Father, we pray that you'd always lead us and guide us in the right path. And Father, we thank you for our nation, and we pray for unity in our nation. Father, we pray that it would unite and we could all work for the same purpose. Ask you, Father, to be with us in this meeting, and all it's accomplished. We praise your name for it. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. At this time, gentlemen, we have the minutes before us. You've had a chance to look at those. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, we have the agenda before us. Are there any additions or deletions at this time? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board concerning tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to our first appointment. We have Mr. Steve Pierce with Rotary, and he's got some good news. And so, Steve, come on up, sir, and we want to welcome you to the boardroom tonight. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. Most of you know the Rotary Club of Marion has a long history of funding things throughout the county, giving back to the community. And this year we're turning our focus to health and wellness in McDowell County. And almost a year ago, I approached EMS Director William Keller about Rotary providing automated electronic defibrillators in Marion and McDowell County. And I'd kind of run across a Rotary Club. I was looking for a project for us to do, and I looking around, and I found a Rotary Club in Maine that had purchased an AED for a school in their community. And I thought, well, this sounds like a plan to me. And so I talked with William about it, and he was has been very supportive. I thank William for kind of guiding us through this. Essentially, what we want to do is we want to place 6 AED units in public buildings, 3 in McDowell County and 3 in the city of Marion. In consultation with William and with County Manager Ashley Wooten, we've selected the County Recreation Department, the Marion Public Library, and the Old Fort Public Library. And we will be purchasing the units. They're about $1,100 per unit, including the wall-mounted case and a kit that comes with it in the event that it's needed to be used. And after they're placed, EMS will do training for the staff at these places, so the staff is comfortable with using it in case of an emergency. These units are fully automated and prompt the provider through a process of using it. Just in July, I think the second Rotary meeting we had as when I became president, I had William come and do a demonstration for the club, and he demonstrated the use of it, and virtually anybody can use it. And but they're also willing to do the training for the staff at these places as well. So there's that comfort level there. But as soon as the Rotary Club saw it in action, they were behind the project also. So we are going to be purchasing units, donating them, having them placed. One of the things that when talking with William is there is some maintenance that needs to be done with these units. The costs involve replacing the pads that are used about every 2 years or after use, and then replacing the battery every 5 years or 200 shocks. So the cost is about $45 for pads, $125 for the battery. So spread out over 5 years, I think the maintenance costs are minimal. But we would be asking the county to take the responsibility for maintenance of these once they're placed. The other thing we'd have to work out is installing each case, a wall-mounted case, I'm assuming that county would do that, and in consultation with EMS about where it needs to be placed at each one of these. But we see this as an opportunity to raise awareness as well in the community, and part of both the public and local government, and having these life-saving AED units placed where they're needed. And so we hope that these 3 that we are donating to the county would also then encourage you to look at other places. William I think, came up with a list of several places that they could use them, and perhaps then the county would purchase ones that would be needed in other places. But we're willing to start the ball rolling with these 3. So thank you for the opportunity to present the project to you. I will answer questions, but William would, I'm sure, be willing to answer any of the technical questions you might have about them. And with your approval, we'll proceed with the purchase and move ahead with this project.
Okay, Steve, hey, we want to say thank you to the Rotary Club for y'all being so civic-minded and placing these life-saving devices in these buildings. And hats off to our staff, William, for partnering with you guys, the club, and working things out. It's just great, and that we appreciate the club and you thinking about saving lives and helping people out. So, what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? None. So we just say thank you. Let the club know we really appreciate the donation and anything we can do as a board to help your club, that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you very much.
Partnerships is where it's at.
Very good, and I'll coordinate with William and with Ashley on the purchase, and let you know when we're ready to have them installed and get a little maybe a little PR with this too.
And speaking of PR, we want to stop now and get a picture made. Our board with you.
Well, thank you.
Being the president at doing the donations. So,
Okay, thank you.
I know you don't have a device with you, but the paper and the social media can say what you're here for. There you
All
are.
right. Just tell me where to stand.
Stand right in the middle.
All right, okay.
Is it appropriate to have William?
Sure, yes, I think so.
Yeah, get right here, Lee. Ashton, get on the other side right here. There you go.
Suppose you're going to have to back up and get a wide angle. Didn't you?
Okay, Steve, thanks, sir. We
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that donation.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, we will identify the other buildings that need them and work on those as well.
That sounds great. Okay, Jim, let's move to our next item. Well, we're about 5 minutes ahead of schedule. Let's go ahead and move to something quick. Administrative items under new business, item A, administrative items. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir, lead us out.
Sure. Just the fairly routine items that we can get through fairly quickly. You see the list there. We have some project ordinance amendments for the universal water line, the Ethan Allen building reuse project. We have 3 project closeouts for the Old Fort Stream and Trail project, the EPA Lake James project, and the McDowell High School project. If you'd like to maybe handle those 2, I can then read the amendments, or I could do it all.
Okay, let's go ahead and take action. What's the pleasure of the board concerning the project ordinance amendments and the project closeouts?
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Mr. Wooten.
And you have 7 amendments. You also have a couple other items. I'll do the amendments. Skipped over. You have GF 17 records the receipt of donated equipment from the state for emergency services. You have GF 19, which allocates additional funding and transfer between line items in emergency services. GF 20 transfers funds to the Universal Waterline Project. SP2 amends the school project fund for various school projects. Enterprise 1 allocates grant revenue and interest income for the Waste Enterprise Fund. And Universal Enterprise 1 amends the universal budget to transfer funds to the Universal Waterline Project. And SI1 allocates revenue to cover self-insurance claims. That's all the amendments.
Okay, comments or questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve amendments is presented.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed, like sign.
There were
Okay, Mr. Wheaton.
two more items that jumped ahead a little bit. You have a resolution for retiring deputy, Mr. Arrowood, and he has requested, you see his letter requesting the purchase of a sidearm.
Okay, gentlemen, you've seen the resolution. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion approved, resolution.
Second.
Okay, discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Then the last item, I promise, is the leak adjustment from a Nebo Water customer, and their letters in there as well.
Okay, gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the adjustment.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go ahead and move to item B under new business. This will be the tax matters. Mr. Wheaton, go ahead, sir, lead us out.
The tax matters this month are fairly straightforward. You do have the typical releases, refunds, et cetera. There are no other adjustments or appeal requests at this time.
Okay,
And just a standard disclaimer, if you ever see one that stands out to you, if you have questions about, please let me know and we will get staff in here to answer questions.
all right, gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve all tax matters.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to item C under new business. The road paving bond. Mr. Wheaton, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harmon is here if I fumble. I think this is our third request that we've had under our subdivision ordinance. Again, developers, as they're platting a subdivision, our ordinance requires that they either purchase a bond or give us a deposit to cover the cost of the road construction before the subdivision is approved. That guarantees that if the developer leaves town, we can finish the roads on their behalf. You have a request from Dennis Whitson to accept the bond. Knowing Mr. Whitson, I don't think he'll leave town, but it is a requirement of the ordinance. And we would request that you do approve it.
Okay, gentlemen, and before we take action on it, we do need to commend Dennis and his partners for the work on the Big League Camp out there. That is a state-of-the-art facility, excellent fields. He's got a long-term goal plan for that property, and you see a subdivision. And what's really neat, I'll use the word neat, you may have some major league players buy into this subdivision just to train on that site. The potential is big time for this, and so this subdivision is the one that's going in near the camp he's got out there. So I think that anytime somebody locally invests money and tries to make this a better place to live and provide more opportunities, it's a great thing. So that's just a little, I had to get that out there real quick. So what's the pleasure of the board concerning this matter, the road paving bond?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the performance bond.
Okay, and Barry's got the second. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, now let's move to item B on our appointment schedule. This will be Mr. Steve Bush with the Chamber and Mr. Marsh representing Miller Properties. Did I say that correct?
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Close enough. Talking about an events center. So come on up, gentlemen. We're glad you're here tonight, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Opportunity to approach.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
you, sir.
Yeah, come on, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. As some of you may have read or seen already in the newspaper, the Chamber has been spearheading in partnership with a lot of entities in the community, most importantly, the new owners of the former Rock 10 property, which is a Miller Realty and Development Company, the Miller family. And the goal there is to take 100,000 square feet, 110,000 square feet of property, convert it into retail space to include a 15,000 square foot municipal event center, also to be known as the MEC. The goal there is to collaborative partners between the Chamber, the city, which we've already met with the city and got their approval to do a letter of intent for their commitment financially, and the other parties would be, of course, the county government. And then we're looking to venture and partner potentially with TDA, Tourism Development Authority, as well as Foothills Community Theater. If there's an opportunity there, we will pursue that as well to partner with them for future plays and things like that. So if you gentlemen will look in your book that we just gave you, if you'll go ahead and jump to the page that says Municipal Event Center, it's about 3 or 4 pages deep. Starts at the top with commitment and collaboration from the community partners. I just named those with you gentlemen. 15,000 square foot facility, as I stated. Renovations would consist of ADA restrooms, floors, docking doors for boats to move in and out of there for boat shows in the future, lighting, electrical fixtures, paint, a stage in the future, dressing areas in the rear of that stage on the back wall that would assist those needing that type of amenities for their productions. Lease, we're looking at $5,000 a month, which comes to $60,000 annually. We're looking to enter into a 10-year lease. Upon your approval this evening, or your commitment, we would sit down with Mr. Wooten, the county manager, and discuss the legalities of an interagency legal agreement, or however we decide to do that. But that is still to be determined as the legalities of it as a whole, what that would look like. So I'm not going to go publicly right now, but if you'll look down there, you'll see the amount of money and the commitments. I want to keep that just kind of under wraps for right now until we finalize all the partners that are at the table. But basically the way the concept would work is all partners, with the exception of the Chamber, would pay their money over a 10-year period. We, the Chamber, would put our money up front to help assist with offsetting the construction costs. And so that way we can get the facility up and going and readily available for rental use as quick as possible. And then the other partners would would pay as we go through the 10 years on the lease agreement. You can see what the sums of the monies are there laid out for each of you guys to observe. And costs, again, we're still working on doing some research, and it's to be determined amount. Mr. Marsh met with Duke Energy today, so he may have some added light to some of that. And what some of those utilities would look like on a yearly basis. How do we separate out? They're talking to them about putting different meters in each of the areas so that we would have we can do that accordingly. The city's supposed to let us know about water and taxes and things like that as well. How do we break that out? So we owe you guys a little bit of information on that, but I think that's something that, pending your commitment, we could work out with Ashley, or excuse me, Mr. Wooten, in working out those final details. Other needs, big player I think would be a projection system, big screen, bring in speakers, conferences, things like that. We have a conversation with one of the local major industries that might become a sponsor for that, to foot the bill on that. So we're looking at that. Speaking of sponsorships, the opportunity to have somebody come in and put their name on that building for 2 or 3 year lease, we're not objective to that one bit. Money's money, and when we can have somebody else helping us assist, offset some costs, that only allows us to invest more deeply into enhancing that property. So some of the different events, you'll see the list there. Some of the events that we're looking at are concerts, gun shows, boat shows. We have a commitment from regional boat sales, such as Blackbeard's, one in Waynesville, one in Hickory, or Lenore? Taylorsville, excuse me. Taylorsville and Waynesville. They'll be coming in here in the spring and the fall doing boat shows on the property. Plays through MACA, Foothills Community Theater, even our own high school when they want to put on a major production, don't have the size in their auditorium. According to Mr. Crawford, having brought him in the facility and meeting the fire codes and the doors and all that, roughly about 2,000 people will be able to fit in that facility. So a lot of folks in there. Potter's Market, getting it out of the high school gym floor, and worry about tearing it up and putting it in there so that it's in the heart of the community. Assisting with the fire college and bringing opportunities for them to use that facility to do some trainings as well. Business expos, job fairs, weddings, reunions, business meetings, conferences, talent shows, crafts fair. If you guys will flip to the first page, it talks about Jones County. We use them as an example. If you know anything about Jones County sits in the east, and it is in the middle of nowhere. I was told that if you take Old Fort, North Carolina, and set it in the middle of that county, and it'll be the biggest thing that they have.
And they probably have no access to I-40, in their county, too.
No, sir. They have, we did their population consensus. They have approximately 10,013 people as of 2015 in the entire county. They have a civic center. They call theirs a civic center. That's roughly, if you'll look, you'll see the maps of their property and their budget is included in here as well. I was informed of 2 other counties down east that have similar facilities, so we're going to do some research with those guys, see what kind of revenue and things that they're bringing in and what kind of shows they're pulling in as well. They're not as remote or as rural as Jones County is. We're at 45,000, 46,000 people here in this county, roughly 9,000 in the city, and if they can make it successful down there, I think we can too. Their facility is 18,000 square feet with 2 breakout rooms. We do have the opportunity in the future to maybe move to some breakout rooms on the side of that property. As you look at the map of the old Rock 10 in the last page of your booklet, it's got a highlighted section. Thank you, Chad. It's got a highlighted section on the old map that shows roughly where that 15,000 square feet is. And then again, on that corridor to the left of that highlight would be where those potential breakout rooms, if they're not filled in with retail before then. As fast as Mr. Marsh is moving, we may not have that opportunity, but we're hoping to keep one towards the end that might be available to us as well. We did some GIS map overlay of the facilities. You guys know where it is. You've seen it before, but just something in there for you as well. And what I asked for you gentlemen tonight is, real quickly, just wanted to give you a few numbers from Jones County. And their revenue in Jones County, I can find my paper, I apologize, that was the one I dropped. Thank you. Their revenue for the income and event rentals in Jones County was $40,815. That's what they made. They're sitting in the middle of nowhere with 10,000 people. And so they're making money. They pay a salary person. Thanks to the Miller family, we will be in partnership with them. They will have somebody on site that will do the scheduling for us. And we'll include a small fee probably inside the rental to offset some of that labor that they're doing. But for the most part, they're on site. They'll be a full-time rep for Miller Development and Realty Company, and then working the scheduling and all that for it, so that none of our entities, neither the chamber nor the county nor the city, have to worry about who do we have calling to rent. One individual, one computer, working the calendar, running that event center for us so that we don't have to worry about that headache. And so that's something that we don't have to worry about. They own their property. The county owns their property down there. So they do all the taxes, they do all the upfit, all the maintenance, everything like that. And so their budget's in there. I'll let you gentlemen look at that privately. So they're spending a lot of money down there. They're spending about $62,000 in operating costs. Tried to ask that manager what he's spending it on, and they have a major parking lot that has RV hookups, that has lights all in the parking lot for the RVs to spend the night in the parking lot. So a little bit of a different setup than what we're talking about as far as that. So their costs are out there as far as electricity and things like that, water, pumping the sewer, and all that stuff is there on site, readily available in that parking lot. So it's a little bit different. That's basically the only thing that they had to draw in people to stay overnight is to have that RV. So it's kind of like a dual income revenue for them. But as a county, that's part of their operating costs as well. So it's something we really don't have to look at. We figure we could cut that in half, about $30,000. If you do that and look at $40,000 income on what they're doing and $30,000 in utilities and all that, I think that we'll be okay. So without any further ado, if you guys have no questions of me, or if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I'd like to give Mr. Marsh an opportunity to speak about the rest of the building and some of the things that might be happening in there as well that will partner great with an event center. So in closing, I would like to just say that we're here tonight to have you guys potentially vote to at least produce a letter of intent for financial commitment just as the city did, just as the chamber has done. Mr. Wooten has a copy of our letter that we did with a lawyer that will protect us in the long run, just the same as you guys. But should everything not go the way we want, we still have the opportunity without a true commitment. But the letter of intent allows them as a company to know that we are committed to this project and moving forward. So pending any questions, I thank you.
All right, we'll come back to you, Steve. We'll let
All right.
Chad go ahead and then we'll come back.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you. Before I start, I just want to say, first of all, I represent officially as Vice President of GM Constructors and as Vice President of Miller Realty and Development. And I want to say from a citizen of the county's perspective as well, I appreciate you gentlemen being willing to come to the table and discuss this further. Regardless of what actions have happened or have not happened in the past, I want to say I appreciate as a citizen of the county you being willing to sit down and discuss something that I believe that we at Miller Realty and Development believe will absolutely benefit not only the citizens of Marion proper, but McDowell County as a whole. So thank you very much for the opportunity. As far as the event center is concerned, I think Steve covered it very well, but what I will tell you our intentions are to make this an absolutely first-class event center where anyone can come and experience something that I think is long overdue here in the county. He just highlighted just a few of them, but, we talked a little briefly about Comic-Con coming in March, and we're talking, potentially over 2,500 people over that weekend, which I don't think I need to tell you what the economic potential that has and what it could do here, not only for Marion proper, but as a whole throughout the county. Very rarely does anybody come from anywhere else and get here and just stick around in Marion. We have so much more to offer here in the county, sitting on the absolute precipice of, Interstate 40 with Lake James right here and some of the beautiful scenery we have around us. This has an absolute opportunity to be the true gateway that we tout Marion as being, and the event center has the chance to be the jewel in that gateway. We have our outlays, and I'd be happy, as I mentioned to the city council, to take anybody from the board who would like to go in and see. Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to give anybody a tour. I'm sure you gentlemen have seen the building. It's been there for quite a while. But I offer up a personal tour as well as laying out an outlay in front of you gentlemen and showing you exactly what I plan to do, what we plan to do there. For Mr. Miller, Larry, and for Todd, I'd also like to say that this, I can assure you, is an opportunity for us to all think civically, and that's exactly what we are attempting to do here. Purchasing the building, there is a great deal of risk associated with purchasing this property. And without everyone looking at this as an absolute opportunity to better the county, we will fail. Without everyone's support, without everyone being able to change their mindsets, instead of getting on Interstate 40 and driving east and west and deciding to stay here in the county and spend their hard-earned tax dollars or otherwise here, it's going to fail. So it's going to take everyone changing a mindset instead of going to Morganton or Asheville and deciding to spend that money here. But our intentions are to create a skating rink in the facility outside of the event center. We've already got a verbal commitment there with the folks who'd like to do that. A martial arts facility that's already resides here in the county will be moving up here into the facility. A sit-down family dining experience, actual restaurant in the facility, as well as a sandwich shop and deli-style restaurant in the facility. A dessert-style restaurant facility, so if you can imagine sweet treats, everything from candy to possibly a cold treat there in the facility. A salon, retail stores that absolutely have the possibility of going from anywhere between 800 square foot to 3,000 square foot retail facilities there in the facility. We have that as an option. We are, as Steve mentioned earlier, we are committed to the project, so we are actually right now in the process of outfitting the old corner, the office corner there on Bergen Street. There used to be the offices there. We're outfitting those to house Miller Realty and Development proper, as well as our marketing arm, and a staffing company that has been for many years here within the county that has lost its lease and has also decided to move into the facility. They will be moving in as early as next week. Our intentions are also to provide offices, as Steve mentioned earlier, breakout possibilities for anybody who might be looking to either rent a conference room or to bring in a professional setting, because the event center is just one piece of it. And so what we like to ask everybody to look at is the entire complex and not just the event center. But we feel that the foot traffic that will be created through the other different retail possibilities will absolutely benefit everybody who's there. There's also 20,000 square foot of storage beneath the facility that has two doors that allow for drop-off of large container trucks that can house bulk and mini storage. That's on the Henderson Street and Bergen Street side. So, gentlemen, to say that we are excited is an absolute understatement. This has been something that has consumed me personally for about the last 8 months in trying to get this going, and the event center is just one aspect of it, but it's certainly something that we are very, very excited about heading off. And I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, I'll just say, and then we'll take open up questions. I'm excited about everything I've heard because we're having. You're taking a building which everybody knows we would love to have that building. I'll say we saw the potential in it. But here's what I like: you've got partners, 4 listed partners already. You've got a business plan in place. You've got sponsorships you're trying to go after, and you've got Miller Realty and Development that are committed to the project because they own the building, and they're going to have on-site personnel to help with the Civic Center. So I think it's a home run for McDowell County. The list of events that, Steve, you listed in the presentation is just from one end of the spectrum to the other end. So, I mean, this is open to all events, it looks like, so we're excited about that. And, you know, it's a good thing. And here again, it's a local person taking initiative. Just had a local person requesting a subdivision performance road bond. We got local people making investments in McDowell County, and it's making our county a better place because of their desire to see things happen in our county for our people. So hats off to Steve. Steve's got the most energy of any one person I know of. He will call you, and I won't say bug you, but he will let you know he has a desire to see something come to pass. I guess that's a professional way to put it. But anyway, so Steve, this has sort of been your baby. I would say that publicly for the newspaper too, that you have had a strong desire to see this happen for a while, and it's great. I like your vision.
I'd just like to alibi real quick. We talked about the different events. I had yesterday the privilege of speaking to Miss Garrett, our superintendent's wife, at the school system, and they are going to entertain a sit down with me, not this year because the timing is already committed for them, but we will be discussing having the prom in 2019 in McDowell County. So we do not want our children going out of this county, spending their money, but having the actual prom. Ms. Garrett was excited about it. She's entertaining the thought, talking to their committee, and everybody seems to be excited. So 2019, we have the potential of having our students have their prom right here in McDowell County.
Well, you just hit another home run with that statement, and I'm sure the school board, we got a great school board, and they'll see the value of that building too. And so, any questions? Questions for either one from any board member? Okay, Ashley, anything you need to add?
No, depending on your direction, we can work with Mr. Bush and the city and whoever else on what an agreement needs to look like, and then bring it back for final approval.
Okay, and anything we do, our county attorney, Steve, which you already talked about, has to sign off.
Same with us. City has theirs, we had ours, and just really would like that motion to include a letter of intent that would show your support and commitment, if at all possible. Gentlemen.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we do a letter of intent to support the event center.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, it looks like it's a 5-0 vote, gentlemen. Now, run with it.
Will do.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, this time let's move to our next item on the agenda. We have a 5:30 appointment with Mr. Ronald Harmon, our Assistant County Manager. He's here to speak about the subdivision ordinance, and we're going to have a public hearing. And do I hear a motion? Okay, I'll just declare at this time pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A-323 that the board is in a public hearing setting now at this point. So, Mr. Harmon, go ahead, sir.
Good evening and Happy New Year. The emergency services 911 addressing came to me about 2 months ago They've been having some issues with subdivision plats being recorded with road names, but the road names had not been run through their office to make sure they weren't duplicate. So after some discussion, we decided that it would be best to put a caveat in the subdivision ordinance that requires any new road created in McDowell County that goes on a plat to have a letter from 911 addressing, making sure that we're not duplicating any road names. It's just a simple amendment to the ordinance. When we adopted the ordinance, we said it would be a living, breathing document, and I think this is probably the third revision in 10 years. So the planning board is asking that that be added to the subdivision ordinance.
Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Wooten, anything you need to add, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, we will receive comment concerning Mr. Harmon and the information he has given to the board. Does anybody who's present wish to speak concerning the proposal? If so, just we'll start on this side of the room and just stand up, state your name, and speak. If nobody on this side, okay. All right. Hear a motion to go out?
Motion to go out public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion, we approve the amendment.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Ron, thank you, sir. Now, let's move to, we're ahead of schedule. Let's move to item A under old business. This will be a transit department update. Are you doing that, or is Randall going to be here for that?
I am. It's very brief. I just wanted to keep it in the conversation. It's page 33 in your packet.
Okay.
Just a very brief update. Since last meeting, there was an informal meeting of the Transportation Advisory Board. I attended for about 30 seconds, so I won't claim to know a lot what happened. But from what I can tell, it was a very informative presentation from the NCDOT person about the overview of the process that we're all going through, and got into what their expectations would be as board members. And so that was, hopefully that didn't scare off any people that had volunteered. Their first formal meeting will be January 24th. At that point, they will choose a chair and that sort of thing and get more organized. On our side, we are working on the numbers from DOT, which will kind of work into our budget process. So about the time that we receive their allocation numbers, we will be working on the funding allocation for the department. And so again, we're taking existing employees and function out of DSS and setting on its own. So it's a little new territory for us to start all that up. But Randall Conley's doing a great job, and he's very busy. When I've talked to him, he's done a great job getting his feet wet. He's ridden I think all the routes they go on, and met a lot of the clients. Had a lot of phone conversations with the state, with surrounding counties. He's either scheduled a visit with Rutherford County, or he has been there already. So I said that was a good one to go check out and see what they're doing right. So.
Rutherford County, during their presentation, for those in attendance tonight, they run a standalone and they make a profit. And the goal is for us to have a standalone that makes a profit, that the county has not had to supplement and feed into that thing. So Rutherford County's done an excellent job with it. So that's a good place for Randall to hang out.
But he's talked to a lot of counties of different sizes, mostly in our range, about how they operate. And the challenge for him and for us is not many counties have been in the boat of starting a new department. So it is somewhat difficult, but he's, again, doing a great job.
Yeah. Mr. Wood, we had 5, at the last meeting, we had 5 at-large seats still available. Madam Clerk, do you know if those have been filled yet? Or
We have 2.
2 now.
2 seats are still available.
So we've had 3 more people apply.
I think we had
Only
2 available.
At last.
We'll check, but I think it was 2 available.
Okay.
And we didn't have any by the time the packet was put together.
Okay, so we still have 2.
That's right.
So anybody watching, if you have a desire to work on transportation in McDowell County, who do they need to see? The clerk?
Clerk.
See that lady right there? And she can go ahead and point you in the right direction. And Mr. Wilton, give just a real short, for those who be watching, the purpose of the system.
Right, so again, we have had a transportation or transit function in DSS, and it's been very limited. So only certain populations were eligible to ride, for the most part. Typically Medicaid recipients that were going to doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. What this change will make it a truly public system, and we will be actually required to take folks if they don't have Medicaid. Now, that doesn't mean that if someone that lives in Ashford or Dysersville or somewhere just calls in and says, I'd like a ride to the store, it's not necessarily on demand. We will say, okay, sir or madam, let's check our schedule. It'll
That
be,
makes sense.
be based primarily, especially in the beginning, on predetermined pickups for folks that are going to the doctor and that sort of thing. So over time, that could change, but especially in the beginning, it's going to be somewhat limited for that on demand for folks that are especially in distant locales. So that's not a discouragement. That's just sort of a reality check, maybe. But as we get into it more, there will be more creative funding opportunities where we can do more and more service, but it's going to be probably for the first year or so more limited in scope. But we're going to track down all the grants and all the different funding options that are out there to build it much more than what we have now. So it's just going to take some time to get there.
Okay.
But we need folks to, with creative ideas to help out, and I think we've got a good start with that.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Wooten. And Madam Clerk, can you give the website address where somebody can apply for those remaining 2 seats?
I can. It's on the McDowell County website, and if you go to County Commissioners, click on that, and under that it says Committees, and the application form is there, so they can fill it out and email it back to me.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Well, we look forward. We're excited about the Transit Department. We know that our director over there, Mr. Conley, will do an excellent job, and so we're excited. Let's move to the next item under old business. This will be a shooting range update. Mr. Wooten, sir, go right ahead and lead us out on this.
Sure, and again, Mr. Harmon is here if I forget something, but you'll recall that NC Wildlife had scheduled a sound test, I believe, on November 28th, and that was conducted by a third-party engineer. The initial feedback was positive. You know, how did it go? It went well, and that was about it. It wasn't very scientific. They did analyze the sound tests, and they have microphones and all kinds of things that will do the actual test. And that went well when they looked at the scientific data, the decibels and all that sort of thing. So with that positive milestone, they are going to schedule a public meeting the week of February 5th. It's not been set in stone yet. They are looking to have it at McDowell Tech, just sort of a independent location. And it will not be operated or run by the county. It will be Wildlife and probably their consultant. And so it would be for anyone to come and comment on it. They will have the sound test results and more information about the range at that meeting for folks. But as soon as we know the date, obviously we'll promote it as much as we can, and the state will as well. But that's what they were looking for that week.
Okay, Ron, anything you need to add to that too? Well, here's another thing that the board's excited about, the shooting range. People travel all over the southeast. The 3D archery is major, and when they travel, they spend money. And so it's a good thing for our local people, and then the events that competition events that could be held there. So the board is excited about that. So let's move forward with that. Let's move to our next appointment, item D. This is our 2017 Audit Presentation. And we have, it looks like April Westmoreland with us from Johnson Price and Sprinkle. And we have our number one person who oversees all financial expenditures here. She's hiding back in there. I can't see her now. But go ahead and stand up. And I'm sure we'll need you up here too.
Hey, I'm April Westmoreland with Johnson Price Sprinkle. Kathy Atkinson is the engagement shareholder, but she had a family emergency at the last minute, so was not able to attend, so I'm filling her shoes. I'm April Westmoreland, the senior manager. I've been on your audit for several years now, me and Kathy, and we appreciate the opportunity to continue as your auditor, and we appreciate working with Ashley and Allison and their staff. They're always very friendly. We come in for several weeks and invade this board meeting, and they're always very accommodating and friendly to work with, so we appreciate that. It's my understanding, I think you've got a bound copy of the audit report and then an electronic copy, and then there should also be a communication letter that was with the audit, and then I've just passed out, you'll see the fund balance, and then there's another letter. It's just a communication letter that kind of hits some more highlights. So not going to go into all this in great detail, just going to hit some highlights. McDowell County is required to have an audit by state statute, and then there's additional requirements because of your state and federal funding that the county receives. You're required to have a governmental auditing standard, an audit under governmental auditing standards and under the uniform guidance. If you'll go to page 1, this is the report page. I don't know if you want to look in your electronic copy, your bound copy. Page 1 is your independent auditor's report, and this is basically what you're wanting to see the results of from an audit. You do all this work, and then you get these audit reports, and your opinion report on your financial statements on page 1 is an unmodified opinion, which is the desired outcome of a financial statement audit, meaning that your financial statements are not materially misstated. And then you have 3 other reports that are in the back of your report under the compliance section, and that begins on page 137. You have a report for internal control over financial reporting. You may have heard us say the terminology, a yellow book report. And then the next 2 reports, beginning on page 139 and then on 141, you've got single audit reports, and those are reports that communicate items related to internal control over major federal programs and then major state programs that we audit. And for both of those reports, you got unmodified opinion, which is the desired outcome of those single audits. Just kind of lay out this report. You've got your table of contents at the beginning, which lays out the whole report, and you can see, given your table of contents, how many pages that is. Gives you an idea, obviously, of the depth and the detail that your financial statements go into. You've got your management's discussion and analysis that begins on page 4, right after your opinion, and that provides just kind of a summary and a synopsis of this whole report and provides some information that management gave us to kind of spell out how things, how your activity was for the year. So I would encourage you to read that, and then that kind of relates to the letter that I just passed out with the fund balance. So I would encourage you to read that along with the MD&A. Would really give you a good idea of the audit results and the financial information. So after your MD&A, you've got your government-wide financial statements, and that begins on page 14, and that's under the full accrual basis. And then on page 17 begins your fund statements, which is how this board budgets, is on modified accrual basis. And specifically, let's look at the general fund on page 17. This is your balance sheet for general fund. And you can see your fund balance there at the bottom, $13.6 million. And if you look at your revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance on page 19, you come down to the $13.6 million fund balance. You started with 14.2. You had a decrease of $571,000 to get to the 13.6 million. And then on the fund balance percentage worksheet that was passed out just a few minutes ago. You can see your fund balance percentage is 22.31, which is comparable to what it was the year before, 24.10%. Any questions on that?
What does the state state that a fund balance for a county should be, minimum? You know,
8% is the statutory requirement.
okay. And ours is 22.3, okay.
And I know Allison and Kathy can speak to way back when it was really low. That was before.
I was there when it was 2%. I just got elected
You
that
remember.
year. 02, yeah, it was bad. We were on probation with the state. It was bad,
Okay.
so.
And then just a couple of other funds I want to point out to you. Your enterprise funds, beginning on page 127. You've got your universal fund on page 127. On 128 is your waste disposal fund, where you can see there's a transfer from the general fund of $946,000 that you're accustomed to seeing.
And that's been sort of consistent for how long now?
You mean the amount or?
Dollar amount.
I know it's come down.
Yes, it's down.
Yeah.
For years, it's been in the 900s.
I know it has been over a million, but it's come down. So you've got your water fund on page 129, and then 130 is your self-insurance fund. So these are budget to actual comparisons. And then lastly, we'll go back to your compliance section that was in the very back where we had your yellow book and single audit reports, beginning on page 145. This just identifies findings that we have reported. Finding 2017-001 is related, this is a repeat finding related to the volume of activity that Finance Department has, but then considering that the limited resources and personnel, so there's a lack of segregation of duty, so that's nothing new. Finding 2017-002 relates to a deficit fund balance that was in the Universal Waterline Project, but the lack of funding wasn't identified till after year end that a requirement had been met, so that was just kind of a timing issue. And then finding 2017-003 is related to an error that management discovered related to paying out retirement benefit or retirement contributions for law enforcement officers. And that's in the process of being corrected. So I'd encourage you just to read, like I said, the communication letter that was passed out, along with the fund balance detail, and also the summary letter, which Kathy wrote, that gives you a little bit more insight into the numbers. Is there any specific questions that we want to talk about? And the LGC has approved the audit. We submitted it December 5th after a meeting with management, and we met with David, and it got approved somewhere there in the middle of December, and there was no issues that we had to correct from when we presented to management and Mr. Walker. So we were pleased with that.
Okay, comments or questions, gentlemen? We just appreciate the, is it a 6-month process, roughly?
Pretty much, on and
6
off,
months.
yes.
6 months y'all come in and your firm and with staff work and produce the document. So we appreciate what your firm does. And we really appreciate our staff and the work they do, Allison and everybody over here, because this is in depth. I mean, you can sit here and dive in on this document for weeks at a time and just look and so we appreciate the work you do. Now, Mr. Wooten, the action needed is to go ahead and accept the audit.
Make a motion, we accept the audit report as presented.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, have a good evening, Abel. All right, let's move to item number C, under old business. a topic that's going to be on our agenda probably for the next
Long time.
couple of years, at least, the Courthouse project update. So, Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir, and lead us out on this.
We covered this in great depth on December 22nd, special meeting there. I won't get into a lot of detail, but I did copy the estimates we had from that meeting. Really just want to mention and remind you that the bids will go out on January 17th. Spoke to Mr. DePoyster today, our facility maintenance director, and he has been at least in daily communication with Mr. Hamrick for, to him, probably seems like years, but definitely the last month or so on different items that need to be in the bid packet and questions Mr. Hamrick has. And so it's coming down to the wire on that end, but they feel confident that they will bid on the 17th with the opening on February 21st. And probably need to have a special meeting to review the bids. And then by the end of February, send those in to Raleigh for approval.
Okay.
So that's the schedule we've been operating on. We adjusted it last month because we need a little more time, but still proceeding for a bid for next week.
Okay. Sounds good. Full steam ahead. Moving to item D under old business. This will be the Stacy Hill Road water line update. Go ahead, Mr. Wooten.
Right. Speaking of bidding, I have been in not daily communication, but somewhat frequent communication, as well as Mr. DePoyster and his staff with our engineer on the Stacy Hill Road water project. We hope to be underway for bidding by the end of January. And so it'll track almost close to the courthouse project for when those will be opened. We're right now waiting for EPA to approve the bid specs. They've had those for a couple of weeks, and they take their time. They cover about 4 states. I'm sure they're busy. But after we have approval for them, we can go to bid. There's a potential we're looking into that we will need a couple of easements, and so we'll get those identified, and if there's any negotiation, we'll bring back those to you. It seems like some of the water lines will be on private property, so we'll have to work on that. But again, we hope to have a February opening and probably about a 6-month construction period. So hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll have water flowing on Stacy Hill Road.
And that's a big positive thing because we're looping the system then.
That's
We're not
right.
paying for water on the ground.
Right.
We pay the city for water on the ground now because it's not looped, so, okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, there being none, let's move on to item number E. This is our personnel policy revision right here. So, Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Mentioned last month on the first reading, this small revision to our personnel policy covers just a few employees in our public works department that work 10-hour days, and it's less, there's nothing less than a handful, but it's 2 or 3 employees. But they need to be counted as far as the policy, and it does allow, it covers their 10-hour shifts and how much they can work in a week. It just covers the vacation and sick time. So they're treated a little bit differently, more like the EMS and sheriff's office employees.
Okay, comments or questions for staff?
Are those typically landfill people?
Can be. Sometimes drivers will work a 10-hour shift, garbage truck drivers.
That's that's considered, they work 10, they don't drop back to 8s or anything.
Right. They're hired at 10 typically, and that's what they work.
And they get do they get the 3 days at Christmas like all
They are paid. They don't, a lot of the staff there will work the day after Christmas, but they are definitely paid for it. You get double time at least.
Okay. That's
Okay.
my question. They gotta work.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, any other comments or questions? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move we approve.
Okay? Have a
Second.
motion. Second, discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay? Let's go to citizen comment. We covered everything on the agenda minus this item. Do we have anyone present who wishes to speak? All right, come on up, just sign your name and your topic. All right, any other reports, communications from staff or board members at this time?
Just two events, if I may mention, you were invited to this Saturday at 8:30 at the Marion Community Building. There's the annual Martin Luther King breakfast. Again, that's 8:30 on Saturday at the community building. There is a charge. It's $12 in advance and $15 at the door. And then Monday, actually on the holiday, there's, and this you have in your packet, there's a service at Addie's Chapel at 11 there on Monday.
Okay. All right, board members have anything?
I'll mention it.
Okay. All right,
That's all we had.
okay.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor say aye. He opposed, like sign. All right, good job, man, good job.